So, hello everybody. I've just started the recording, so hopefully we're good to go. Right, so it's really, really lovely to see you tonight, Amanda. Thank you very, very much for taking time out and even changing your plans so that you could come along and chat to us. It's really, really good to see you. So,
Pleasure.
So I know there's a few people on our call tonight and a few people that are probably going to listen to this afterwards that don't know who you are. I have sent out a little bio with what we discussed on there, which was all looked really, really exciting. But do you want to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about who you are and what it is you do and, you know, that sort of thing. And let's see where we roll with that.
Sure, yeah, lovely. Well, it's an absolute pleasure, thank you, to be invited onto the lovely people. Is that what you call it? The lovely people?
Yeah, so people webinar.
I just love that. I've been telling everybody all day, oh, I'm going to go and talk on the lovely people webinar. So cute.
You fit perfectly.
And pleasure to be here after meeting you ladies over in Spain just last month. And everybody else, I don't think I know anybody who's on the call, so yeah, lovely to connect with some new people. Well, my name's Amanda and I live in Spain, and I've lived here for about 11 years, originally from West London, and I got introduced to this understanding about 5 years ago. Many of you might know a lady called Sheila Massand, who organised the Viva event. Well, Sheila was the person who introduced me, and Sheila used to run some courses here by Jack Pransky. They were extended professional training courses, and I came along to one of those, like it was a talk to the public, which was always on the eve of the. He always did this sort of talk to invite all local people on the eve of the beginning of his new courses, and I was one of those people in the public who got to hear something, and it was interesting for me because the first time I went to one of these talks, I missed it. I totally missed the point really of what they were pointing to. Yes. So I got very carried away with, oh yeah, I know all this stuff, and I thought, oh, this reminds me of. They were talking a lot about thought, and I thought, oh, this reminds me of Louise Hay, or I don't know, whatever, The Secret, or whatever it was that had been previously sort of thrown around. And it was interesting because that year, even though it was just an hour's talk, that whole year I used to be a massage practitioner and a reflexologist, holistic therapist. Where I would normally recommend people who had anything going on in their thinking to a local counsellor or a local psychologist, I found myself that year telling people to check out this thing called the 3 Principles, and check out Jack Pransky, and that was quite interesting because I hadn't really checked it out. And, you know, that's like, I can't normally sell anything unless I really, really believe in it. So that little voice, as that little voice does, popped into my head. And I remember this day saying to this lady, why don't you check out the 3 Principles, and writing her down sort of the details. And the voice popped into my head which said, why don't you check it out? And as serendipitous would have it, the next day I got another little newsletter from Sheila. And I don't know if any of you write newsletters, but I'm sure you receive lots. If you don't, sometimes there's just floods and floods. If you're anything like me, you know, I used to sign up to absolutely everything. Floods of newsletters coming in. And sometimes I read them and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I save them with this great intention that one day I'm going to read them, you know, and then you end up with sort of thousands and thousands of pounds. But this newsletter I read, and it was to say Jack Pransky was back in town, and would I come up to another little chat, just a public chat. They free, you know, it was free to the public, or something, I don't know, very low price, and that was where I went to that hour's chat, and it was a really beautiful group of people. I was unaware that they were starting this training course, and there was people there from all over the world who had come to listen to Jack and to learn with Jack. And something happened to me in that hour that I was sat there. And I don't know what it was that Jack exactly said, but all I do know that I was sitting there and I was thinking, wow, it must be really cool to, you know, be that wise. And, you know, I was doing that thing that I'd always done for years, which was kind of give my power away to these people that I thought that were wiser than me, and, you know, in that sort of guru type of way. And whatever Jack was talking about wisdom, and he said something like, you've got all the wisdom you need inside of you. It was something like that. I don't know what he said, but all I know is that I had this very strange feeling come right up through my feet. And that was it. That was it for me. I didn't even, I wouldn't go home. I stayed there. And I didn't have any money. I had the children at home and the dogs. And I was like, I don't know what you're on about, but I do know that I want to hear more. Mm. And so it was quite interesting because everybody was there to learn how Jack shared, you know, introduced the principles to people who didn't know anything about it. But the people that were in the room were people that had been around it quite a long time. And there was I that night, and Jack said to me, right, I want you on this course. And don't worry, and we'll sort everything out, you know, finances, whatever. And we did. And so there was I, the new girl, right? I was really this sort of 3 principle virgin in the room. And where they were sort of starting on this whatever it was a 3-day retreat, I think 3-day weekend, and then there was a 6-month training that was done online, and then you met for another 3 days at the end of the training. And I was asking so many questions, and I didn't know anything. So, you know, they were talking about this guy called Sid Banks, and, you know, I was asking all these questions. I remember Jack very, very politely telling me to button it and just and he was really good at that, you know. So that was sort of my introduction. So I kind of went straight in. I went straight into doing this extended professional training course. And what was great for everybody on that course was he had somebody like me who was very keen, but very, you know, asking lots of questions. And it was really good for them to see how he kind of dealt with me, you know, and how he was. And so that was good in a way, because I kept thinking, oh my goodness, I'm really out of my depth. When I got to realize that these people were already, you know, well into this sort of, well into this understanding. And that was it really. And, you know, life has never been the same since. But it's not that, you know, when I turned up to, the reason that Sheila used to invite me was that I was a big part of the community here, as a sort of expat community in Spain. I live in a town called Javia, which is in between Alicante and Valencia. And I'm always able to gather a crowd and bring people along to anything that's going on. And I was, you know, I was a real happy character. So it's not that I came with troubles and strife. It wasn't, you know, I hear a lot of stories that people come into, or, you know, when they sort of meet the principles, or, you know, start to understand about how the principles work, that they've gone through their own kind of troubles or illnesses, or have had these sort of, there's often huge, big stories. And that really wasn't my case, you know, because although I was very, very happy, I was very busy being very happy. Yeah. You know, and I've always been a wannabe hippie. So I was that kind of happy hippie driving around town, and thought it was my job to make everybody else happy. Yeah. So I was, you know, I was exhausted, probably is what it was. I was mentally exhausted. Yeah. And it's funny because that first 6 months that we did this online training, and it was really intense actually, or for me it was. Yeah. And where I had been this sort of really happy girl, I think I cried for about 6 months. You hear people who are sort of on their pink cloud, you know, and they sort of get, you know, they get introduced to this, and then like life changes and everything's amazing. But life had always seemed like it was amazing. Mm. And I think after that, kind of that first 6 months, I experienced for the first time peace of mind. And I know that I had never, ever, or as far as I could remember, actually had that feeling of space inside my head or inside my personal mind. So
Yeah, that is a
You
beautiful,
know,
beautiful place to go. And I think that it's interesting, like with you saying about you hadn't got troubles and things like that. I think this is so impactful and powerful. I think, and I know for me, it rearranged things in my life that I didn't know that there was anything wrong with them. You know, it sorted out the things where I knew things weren't great, but it also sorted out an awful lot of things that I was unaware. You know, to me, that just looked like life was. That was something that that was how it happened. That, you know, and we could cope with that, and that was fine. So it is brilliant the way it's kind of like it sweeps out everything, doesn't it?
yeah, I mean, it was, you know, it was really amazing, and that first year for me was huge. And I remember sort of the biggest. I remember coming out of that first weekend, and I felt like I'd been at a wedding. I remember we had this like closing circle of this, and I remember this sort of guy declaring his undying love for all of us. You know, this guy from America, as people often do, right? They just become so overwhelmed with love.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember feeling like I really, really felt like I'd been, you know, I was at this sort of wedding, and there was just these sort of speeches, and it'd been I don't know, a long time. Although I'd been around a lot of people, I was always attracted to helping people. I was a typical wanted to save the world and help, and I'm always attracted to all sorts of, you know, anyway, whoever, whatever. My dad always used to say, you can put 100 normal fellas in a field and one weirdo, and she'll find him. So that was me. I just used to. I was always attracted to people with interesting stories, and was always attracted to that kind of, you know, those characters. So yeah, so life had always been pretty colourful, really, and this was something different. This was something like I used to say to Jack, I felt like I was in a room with, you know, there was times on that weekend I felt like I was in a room with Jesus and these sort of 12 disciples, you know, who had sort of come across something, and I was like, oh my goodness. Everybody was talking about how there was a lady there who was sharing it in Germany, and there was another lady who was sharing it in another country, and nobody else in that country, you know, was sharing it. And I was like, wow, could I really be involved in something that is going to be so huge and is on this sort of expansion? And that was really, really exciting for me.
Yeah.
And it still is really, really exciting for me. And that was 5 years ago, right? And there's not a day that I don't get excited about sharing. You know, almost to the point I have to really calm myself down, because if I'm sharing to a group of people, I get so excited. And I had to sort of constantly bring myself, you know, just back down, just calm myself down. So yeah, so that's a little bit about sort of, I don't know, about me and where I'm from, and I've got 2 children. Mm-hmm. So that's really exciting. I came to Spain 11 years ago in a camper van, in an old Volkswagen, the hippie style camper van, and that was a real adventure for us. I'd done lots of traveling, and yeah, just wanted to live in the sun, really. I like the outdoors. So my children are all grown up now, and my daughter's off doing her worldly travels, and she's in India at the moment, and she's just been in Nepal for a couple of weeks. And my son Charlie is up in St Andrews at university.
Oh,
so
lovely.
Yes, so they've just flown the nest. So I'm in a totally different stage again, I guess, the empty nest syndrome. So yeah, but there's plenty to keep busy. But I don't know really, Deb, did you have a sort of, you know, did you want to sort of guide where you wanted tonight's
Well, I know,
talk?
like, one of the things that you said in your bio was the work that you're doing now. You're working with addicts. So I wondered if you would mind sharing where you saw, you know, how that is different, like since you understood the principles, you know, what have you seen in that world? How is it helpful to you? How is it helpful to them? You know, what you learn, what would you say around, you know, the job that you now do? What?
Yeah. No, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to talk to that a little bit. So I work at a recovery centre here in Javier called Step One Recovery. And it's a very upmarket recovery centre, so it's very high end. So
Mm.
it's sort of like a small boutique version of the Priory. And we get very, very interesting characters in there. And so we all use metaphors, and we all always talk about money doesn't bring us happiness. And that's something that is really shown to be true there, because most of the people that come in, they've got money, or they've had money, or their parents have got money, and it's like, £20,000 a month to come in there. So you need to have a few bob just to sort of get through the door. But what I have seen since being there, I mean, it's quite an interesting story actually, because I never ever wanted to work for anybody else. So I used to run my own business called the Serendipity Experience. And I've worked with people before that have had addictions, but I've never worked with people that were in the height of their addiction.
Okay.
Like actually sort of really at the point where they had reached their rock bottom, or were sort of just in their only recent days sort of tried to commit suicide, or I hadn't really worked with people. I'd worked with people more down the line.
Yeah.
And so I met the owner about a year ago, and he offered for me to come and work with him, and that didn't really suit me, because I've never worked for anybody else. I've always been my own boss. And then back in February of this year, I went out one day with a coaching client, and we were going to go and do a walk and talk, because I like to do my coaching outside. Sometimes, whenever I can, we get out and we go off to like a really beautiful spot, or we go and walk. And when I came home this day, my house was on fire.
Oh my God.
And yeah, so I lost the whole house. Like the whole house was on fire. So it was quite bizarre. It was a really crazy experience. And I was very, very lucky. I had both my dogs with me. So, at that point, very helpful to have this understanding, because, this experience playing out, and very helpful to remember. But that everything's going to be a memory. So that was really, really helpful. But my house and the room that I'd been toying with this idea of this, sort of talked about me going to work for him. And I don't know, I wasn't sure, couldn't make my mind up. And actually the room that completely burnt out was my treatment room. And everything went, all my holistic therapies, all my certificates, everything. I mean, we ended up actually losing almost everything in the house. But that was the room where the fire started, and that was the room that was completely gutted and sort of unrecognizable. Ceiling collapsed in and everything. So that was the decision taken out of my hands. And
you were free of that now.
Free of that, right? So no, so it was amazing. I was given a really amazing opportunity, and I was brought in there. I was given a job, sort of head of clinic, which was really cool. And I thought that I thought all my dreams were coming true. Actually, I thought that I had this opportunity where I was going to be able to share the principles, and he was going to understand it, the owner, and then we'd be opening another treatment center. And I sort of saw ourselves as being, do you know Gulf Breeze, which is in Florida?
Yes.
So, where Joe Bailey went over there and trained all the stuff. So that's in my head. That's what I was doing. But when I first went in, there was quite a lot of resistance to it, because it's quite a profound sort of, especially all the staff there came from via the 12-step program. Everybody that used to work there was in recovery. And I, they loved me, and they loved what I had to, they loved my way, and they loved, but they weren't so open to what I was sharing. So for a while, I kind of was doing it a little bit undercover. That's how it was. So it was just sort of
in anywhere you could, any opportunities.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the owner there, he really loves. He said he built that recovery center on a book that he read called The Hero, which is one of the follow-ons from The Secret. So it's like The Secret, The Hero, The Power, and the, I don't know what the other one is. There's 4 of them in it. Okay. And so, yeah, I used to just kind of, I don't know, swap over the DVDs. In the movie night in the cinema. He'd go, where's that Secret DVD gone? I don't know. Why don't we play a bit of Sydney Banks?
Love it.
And there was this kind of just this thing going on, and I just started leaving books around the place, you know. So we have like 5 suites. We have 4 bungalows, and I would just leave the Enlightened Gardener, and Somebody Should Have Told Us, and The Missing Link would just be in the room where we do meditation, and that's how it kind of you know, sort of started. So that was just back in February, March. And it's funny because I had then built up this idea that I wasn't allowed to share it, or it wasn't so welcomed. And he used to say to me, get all that love stuff off of the program. You know, and we need more addiction stuff on the program. And so we'd sort of mix it in, and I'd talk about recovery from the heart, and we still let all the other, you know, the other counsellors and they still did their normal workshops. But what was really interesting was sort of the stages that people were at. So if somebody had just come in with a 20 years of heroin addiction, and they were on quite heavy detox, or, you know, or whatever, or they were, you know, there's no point in even going there.
No.
We're trying to draw diagrams or talk about principles, or, you know, so you know, that was very, very obvious. Just to be in that feeling with them, you know. And I think, I guess you'll see it, Deb, and anybody else on this call, when you've been around this understanding for a while, there's just a natural kind of language that you use anyway. So you're always kind of talking about it in I mean, I used to drive my daughter bonkers, you know. She used to sort of say, don't, what did she used to say? Don't Pransky me up. That's what she used to say. And, you know, stop, don't free P me. Don't free P me. So, but you don't realise, do you, that you're just sort of talking anyway, right? So even if you're just washing up or whatever. So
it just starts to be part of who you are. You can't, and the thing is, you see life so clearly in that way that it's very, very difficult to not share what you're seeing.
Yeah, definitely. So I used to really try, you know, not to, unless I had an invitation to share. But so that was sort of at work. So that was okay. And then gradually, if anybody showed a little bit of curiosity, then I would sort of, you know. So what I got to see, that the people who were really starting to hear something with me were the people who had been in recovery maybe quite a long time. This wasn't their first first treatment center. They had a history of relapsing, and they had a history of, you know, a lot of them had been through 10 or 12 detoxes, or they'd been in 6, 7, 8 different treatment centers, and they always heard the same thing. And this was something new. This was something new, and this was something different.
So it was almost the no-hopers, you might say.
Almost. Yeah, and this was really exciting. So, you know, I've got to see that the fellowship. I didn't come from I haven't come from recovery, so I have my own addictions, but I didn't go through that sort of world of recovery. So, you know, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not a drug addict, I'm not whatever. I'm addicted to my thinking, I'm addicted to my feelings, I'm addicted to love, and I used to be addicted to try and find my soulmate and all these other sort of stuff, you know, that luckily was let go of. But I didn't have that kind of substance. I didn't have that sort of substance addiction. So the people who would either tend to think, oh, this was all too much for them, and they would back off, and that was great, and I just let that be, and in a couple of weeks they might come around.
Yeah.
And And that was what was really nice, is because we're residential, it's not like you've only got an hour to get your food card. It's not like, it's an hour a week. So they're in there for mostly, our minimum stay is like normally about 2 weeks minimum, but it's normally 4 to 6 weeks. Sometimes it's we've had some 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. So there's no rush. You can just kind of drop a seed and then let it be and get people curious. And that's really, so that's really a gift, actually.
Yeah,
it's really,
that's a beautiful gift.
really gift.
Yeah.
And, and so there's no pressure either, because they're in. Once they're in, they're in. Once they're in, they've paid up. So there's not even if there are any coaches on the call, there's always that trying to, you're still trying to attract clients and keep clients or whatever it is you're doing. So that's what's really nice for me. That was the best gift of suddenly being employed. So, full-time employment, not having to think about, I treat it like it's my own business anyway. And for me, it's like a family business that we run. So I don't treat it any differently to I would my own business.
Yeah.
But that pressure isn't on me as a solo kind of, solo entrepreneur or whatever to be looking at the figures or the cash flow or any of that. So I can really just work with the people, or be with the people, or listen to the people.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely.
So it is really, so in that way, it's really lovely. And so we had, I would say, since I've been in there, obviously we only ever have 8 guests maximum. So I'd say that of the people that have really, really heard something to the point that they're still sort of they're still having coaching with me, or they are, they've had a huge shift. There's probably been about 10 people who've really, really heard something strongly since March, which is great, which is great. And of course, there's all the other people who it's just, like, I don't know, maybe I was in that first year where you hear something and you go away and it's not, that penny might not drop, or that whatever, it could be 6 months later, a year later, 18 months later.
I think it can often be like that. I've had people that I've spoken to, and it's looked to me as if they've turned away, and I'm kind of, have I not said the right thing or done? And then you kind of let go of that, and then at some point, some of those people, they obviously heard something that maybe it wasn't quite the right time, or it didn't, maybe. But very often, I think people come back. You've planted some kind of seed, probably a lot more than you realise. And people can have small shifts and not even be aware that they've had those shifts, can't they? So things can be different anyway.
Absolutely. I think, that it's a little bit like working with people in addiction, especially if they've come from sort of the fellowships or the Alcoholics Anonymous, or, they're always sort of, or have been waiting for this huge kind of enlightening moment and everything. And I think that the small shifts are where the magic is, right? Because it's subtle. It's really, really, really subtle. But recently, we had a recent case which was just mind blowing for me. In fact, you might have met, there's a lady that came to Viva with me. I don't know if you met her at Viva, but she was one of our clients. And she had a lovely story because she had been in recovery for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And she had a relapse. And she came to us. She was also a psychotherapist and has worked in recovery for a long time. But got to see that she was never really truly happy in sobriety. So, there's a big difference there. I see a lot of people that have come back that are surviving, but they're not thriving.
Yes, yeah.
They're managing because they've been told they've got a disease, and so they've really been sort of managing this, these apparent, addictions, and that's so interesting for me that once we sort of do detox them, and people come in all sorts of states, and all sorts of, and it's really lovely to be there right from the beginning. But recently, having this lady, there's Tony. Hi, Tony. Having a lady who was very, very, rock bottom.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be here. She'd rather be dead, and all of that sort of chat. Who was in a real heavy detox. And she said to me that she'd been in there about 4 days, and I don't remember. I mean, we had just little chats, and I just spent time sitting with her, just talking, just normal chats. And she said she heard something. I can't remember what I said, but what she heard was thought creates feeling.
Mm.
And she said that she had never seen that or heard that before. And she was a psychotherapist and had been in recovery for 18 years. And, you know, her husband runs a treatment center.
Mm.
And she had never seen it that clearly. She had never seen it like that.
Mm.
And so even when somebody that sort of being, she was still under a lot of medication, or, you know, so under a detox. I mean, we slightly different with the detox we use, but she was still really sort of in another space, and heard that message in just a normal conversation.
Mm.
Enough to get really, you know, to just get interested. So that's, for me, and she had a huge turnaround, like a huge shift, to the point that she's gone back and she's now doing a course, and she's, I mean, to the point that she's gone really the other way and won't work, doesn't even want to work with the steps or whatever. So, you know, but that's, you know, her journey. And I've seen, what's really lovely is that the fellowships, and, you know, it's a beautiful setup. And the program, the 12-step program, you know, it's a beautiful program, but there is just something which appears like is just missing. And there's just something that you know, the principles can really complement, and we're all pointing in the same direction. And so those people, for me, the people who have sort of done this kind of put their hand up to the 12-step, or they put their hand up to talking about you know, sort of with the language of AA, or the people that have put their hand up with the whole sort of God talk, that there seems to be that they get more interested because, you know, can use different words, just using different words.
Yeah.
And they seem to like that. So I can use whatever words suits them. Once I just get an understanding of what the words that they use mean to them, you know, we can talk in their language. It doesn't matter. So I've seen something really magical happen for people, like you might see, anybody on here who's used to sharing. You see that kind of quizzical, that, you know, there's a look in people's eyes when they hear something.
Yeah.
You know, and there's that blankness, and there's that sort of that feeling around the room, and that happens, you know, that happens, would seem, when people have just settled a little bit. It happens, well, it either happens actually instantly. If it doesn't happen like within that first sort of hour that I spend with somebody, sometimes they either get really, you know, attracted to hearing something new, or then it's a couple of, you know, they're in there a couple of weeks, and then things just start to piece together.
Yeah.
Things start to piece together. So yeah, I mean, that's where we're at there. And it's really, what's really lovely now is that one day I had a lady come in, and she was only there for a week, and she had some huge thinking going on about with sort of personal issue. And I thought, right, I really need to, I'm going to run this week as if I'm running a retreat. And just
fabulous.
And it doesn't matter. And somehow, I don't know where it came from, but suddenly I just thought, I can't hide this anymore. Like, I'm not going to pretend anymore. I'm not going to pretend what I'm doing. And if I can't share what I'm sharing, then I can't work here, because, you know, and, you know, no one queried it, right? So I had kind of made all that up, that I had to keep it secret, and, you know, and I was just like, well, this is how it is. This is too powerful. I need to share it, and I need to share it in the way that you know, that I like doing it. So from sort of that week on, really, and that was amazing. She had another huge sort of turnaround, which is always, you know, it's just lovely. It's lovely for me to be in that room, and for people to see that her life could have gone two ways, you know. And she was on the bordering of kind of, you know, ending her marriage, and then suddenly started this whole new relationship, you know, with the same man, you know, and it's lovely. It's so lovely to witness that, you know, and that's just a gift as well, to be part of somebody's journey.
It is.
In
That
that
is
way.
really beautiful. And it's the shifts, you never know, and sometimes even the person that has those shifts never knows what it is in their life, that, you know, what blocks they've had or anything, and then they sort of come to you and say, you know, oh, I've you know, spoken to my mom in a way I've never spoken to my mom before, or, you know, like, this relationship's healed or something. And it is just, it's an absolute, it's a blessing, isn't it, to just watch people. And like earlier you said, people were coping and surviving. It's really beautiful to watch someone turn that around and begin to thrive. That
Absolutely.
it is. I mean, that's one of the things that I love more than anything about sharing this, just seeing people, you know, actually just step into being who they truly are, just step into being themselves, and just, it's just lovely to watch people blossom in that way, isn't it? It's cool.
Absolutely. And, you know, I love the sort of a workshop I do there at the moment, and it's sort of from recovery to discovery.
Wow.
So there's so much talk about being in recovery, but it's just a journey of discovery. And I always say to people, you know, whatever brought you here today is what brought you here, but you're here now.
Yeah.
You know, you're here now, and this is what we have from here on. So yeah, I am so blessed. And so to think that, you know, the world works in its own little way, and that the fire, which seemed such a huge thing back in February, and it's so right, like that job is so right for me, and I'm so right for that job, you know, and you just got to let it play out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we can get impatient with that, can't we? And be like, oh, and we see, I know, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I know for me, I'll see people and think, oh, you could so benefit from the principles and so benefit from this understanding. And sometimes it's quite, I mean, I'm excitable like you as well, and you kind of so just want this person to have it. And then it is kind of learning, actually, do you know what? This is all just going to work. This is just going to play out. This is just for me, actually, to take a breath and just allow this space and just be that space, and it does, the world just play out. I have seen that. So I mean, just this week I've had some just amazing things happen that I just never saw coming, and it's like, wow, you know, the world, it just works. This works. And when we kind of step into it and allow that working, it's beautiful, isn't it?
Absolutely. Are you going to share that? Are you going to share anything with us? Anything amazing that's happened this week?
Well, it looks like we are going to be doing our own amazing event. We're going to be doing like a conference style, like a Viva style event here in North Devon, where I live, and we've actually secured we've got somebody investing some money to help us do that, which I just never saw coming at all. That was just like, yeah, it's amazing, just feeling really brilliant about it. So yeah, we came to Spain to see you, and you'll have to come over to North Devon and visit us, right, in September.
No, I will actually. I realise where you are is where cousins of mine live. So they live in, well, I think Ilfracombe and
yeah. Oh, well, we would absolutely have to talk about that then, because there's going to be an amazing, so anyone who's listening to this, there is going to be an absolutely fantastic event taking place in North Devon in September, and it looks very much like the beautiful, lovely Amanda might be there with us.
That sounds great. Well, I'd love to.
We would absolutely love you to be there. So yeah. So we've been talking for a while. I'm just kind of aware, if anyone has got any questions, anything they want to ask Amanda, anything, you know, anything that's not been clear, or any comments they want to make, or absolutely anything, you can either unmute yourself, or there's a chat box down at the bottom of your screen that you can type in a question if you want to ask it that way. If anybody wants to join in the conversation, please do. while you're kind of thinking about that and doing that, I know you spoke, you said like when you had these people, you treated it as if it was a retreat setting. And I know that's something else that you do, retreats out in Spain.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about your retreat, what happens on the retreat, what, you know,
yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. I'd love to. So we have the next retreat coming up is in March, 2018, and there's this most amazing retreat center that we found down in southern Spain in the Las Alpujarras Mountains, which is near Sierra Nevada. If anybody knows that sort of southern Spain area, absolutely gorgeous. And it was an idea that I had a few years ago because all of the retreats that I used to go, or the retreats that we used to have here, were always sort of hotel based. And that didn't really suit me, you know, that sitting on a chair in a big hall or whatever it was for, you know, hours and hours and hours. So I wanted to create a space where we could sort of share and learn and hang out and do all that sort of stuff in a more comfortable sort of setting. So where we found this retreat center, it's our third time down there now, and it's off grid. So everything's wooden, and there's tree houses and little stone houses and cob houses, and just really, really lovely accommodation, sort of, you know, rustic. So it's sort of like going back to nature, but sort of posh basics. And the most amazing food, really, really great vegetarian food, and all real fires. And like last year we paid to have a fire stoker just to keep all the fires sort of up and running, and that was really great. But it's really nice. It can take it's a big space, so in the summer you can take up to about 40 people. In the winter, I think we're going to cap it at 30. Last year there were 19 of us, I think, so, and it was great. So yeah, really amazing food, amazing views, nice accommodation. And where we do our talks, we call them happyology gatherings, the study of happy. And, so the happyology gatherings happen in there's a dome, really beautiful space. So a dome with a big wooden fire, real fire in there, and that's where we do yoga every morning, and we run it kind of retreaty, and then we have a gathering, and then we all eat together, and we do guided walks, and there's treatments available in the afternoon, and we do other stuff, you know, and some cool stuff, some creative stuff, and some music and sort of art, and we did all sorts of things last year. But the main thing was getting people together and exploring the understanding. And yeah, it's just a super cool venue. So we've got, I'll be down there myself and a lady called Kate Moss. She's our yoga teacher, and everybody says, "What, the Kate Moss?" She's our Kate Moss, and she's lovely. And Jane Cockrell, who I think you know, Deb. I don't know if anybody else on this call knows Jane. So Jane was with us last year as well, and she was she's just amazing. So she gets us all organised, as Jane, and she'll be with us again. And we've got a few guest speakers coming. We're going to have a few so we've got a few surprises as well. So it's check it out. It's called the Love and Clarity Retreat.
I think that was on the link that people got for you. I think there was a website link if anybody is kind of
great. And that's probably an old. We'd sort of half done a website, but we're finishing. There's another website. Jane has actually reboosted and redone the website, so that'll be out in the next couple of days. So I'll send that link again. Yeah. But it's really gorgeous. It's March the 10th to the 17th, and it's great value. It's 7 days, 7 nights, all your food, all your classes, all sort of all inclusive, and that's an early bird of €995. So it's really, really good value for what you get. It's really, really good value. So yeah, if anybody's interested in that, we've got, I think, 8 people. We haven't really put it out there yet, probably, but we've got 8 people signed up already. I've got loads of people interested, and I think this weekend we're gonna kind of launch it. So quite soon, actually, March. But people in Spain are last minute. They don't do this planning ahead like you know. They're like, I don't know now. I don't know if I can go now. It's like, but it's in English. The retreat's in English, and everybody who comes there will be speaking English.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's it. So if anybody has any questions or wants to introduce themselves, or I'd love to hear from everybody.
Are there any questions out there that anyone wants to ask? Everybody's very shy tonight, and I think sometimes when you kind of have a talk like this, people's minds tend to quiet down a little bit. They come on with questions, and then by the time you sort of started chatting, everybody kind of goes into this nice, just relaxed place and just kind of sort of listens. So what would you say is the biggest difference that you've seen in your life? You're talking about going from surviving to thriving and things, and I know, like you said, you didn't see that you had any particular issues going on with you, but what would you say, since you've come across the principles, what's the most marked thing for you that you've noticed?
I think sort of really seeing the sort of how we live in separate realities. Sort of exploring separate realities, and that, I think that was huge for me when I really got to see the depth of that. And being able to just what I find that happens now for me anyway is sort of pointing back to the oneness of life. I just don't jump to that space of how does it affect me. So if there's a situation or an event, there's just naturally being more in a state of compassion, where it's kind of like, oh wow, that's really how it looks for you right now, and like, how can I help? Or so sort of more being there's more space of being of service. Being of service. But what, for me personally, I was always pretty much like that. But I used to love doing things for people, but I kind of like to have the gratitude for it. So I would do anything for anybody, but I would really have exhausted myself because I didn't even realize that, but I really see it now. I kind of wanted to be told that I was good, and
there was something on it for you. There was something on it.
Yeah, and I wasn't, and I kind of was caught up. Something that I got to see very clearly, I'd say, in that first year was, I was living under a belief system that the more I gave out, the more would come my way. So I was very giving to the point of probably near exhaustion.
Yeah.
Actually, all I wanted was to receive. So I was giving love, but really, what I was, I just was looking for love to come back my way. So and now I see that was, in lots of the sort of relationships that you're in, that it's it's just a sign of, I don't know, it's not very attractive, is it, to be so I used to think it was great. I used to think if more people were like me, then the place would be a nice, the world would be a nicer place. And so there's that giving. And so in a way, I kind of see that there was a falseness there. So this happy, hippie, and that's just really nice to just, there's just a bit more grace. So like, I give lovingly if I can, and it, but if it's not there, or if the energy's not there, I don't have to give in order for people to like me, or I don't have to give beyond what I can in that moment, and so really that's been really, really helpful for me. There's a few, a couple of things there, but really not having any concern or any fear of any consequences.
Yeah.
So no fear of whether people are going to like me or not like me, or that was huge for me. That was really, really huge for me. And so that makes sense, it's the do-gooders, if you like, don't always have it easy. And I understand why. There's constant giving, and
Mm.
you just don't have to. Like it's just allow the happening to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, my default was definitely, you know, I would have described it as people pleaser. That was definitely, you know, where I used to come from all the time, very much like a people pleaser. And that was absolutely coming from this deep need for people to accept me and like me. You know, I would have been devastated if I thought somebody didn't like me. And yeah, and now I just love people. You know, the whole lovely people webinars has come from my life, just seems full of just the most lovely people. And it's a way more natural kind of giving.
Yeah.
And it's not exhausting in the way that people pleasing is exhausting, because there's you've got a lot on your mind when you're doing that. You know, you kind of, yeah, I've got to check in that you're okay. I've got to check in that this has had the effect I want it to have. I've got to check in that you do definitely like me, you know, sort of thing. And it's really, like you said, one of the things that you noticed was this, the emptiness of your mind, the space, and that kind of, and just giving from a place of that empty space is just so easy. And yet giving from a very crowded mind, when it's all got to check in and the boxes have got to be right and it's all got to fit into place, that it's going to work. It's almost a controlling thing, isn't it? Even though you're kind of
yeah, and you know, and when I realised how controlling I was, like the character of Amanda is just quite, I don't know what I am, bossy or you know, or I don't know, my children would call me, that's what they would call me, but or I used to be more, because it felt like things had to be in a certain way in order for everything to be okay.
Mm.
So there's constantly, you know, needing everything to be a certain way, and that's really nice to really, whatever way it was that you see it for yourself, that nothing out there has the power to affect me, neither positively nor negatively.
Mm.
You know, when you sort of really start to take your power back and seeing that also I don't have that power to affect anybody else, either positively or negatively. So if I can just be me, you know, that's really cool. And that gives, that people buy that. People buy authenticity. People buy, they feel it.
Yeah.
It's not fake, right? They feel it. And that allows them to just be them.
Mm.
And you know, and that's really nice to live more in that way. So and seeing that it's not all about just being happy. There was this sort of, I think I was striving so hard to make to make other people happy. And I remember somebody saying to me one day, I remember saying, "Oh, he doesn't seem very happy." Something, he doesn't seem very happy. And they said to me, "How do you know?"
Yeah.
Because they weren't like, you know, Amanda happy. Like, how do you know they're not happy?
Mm.
Yeah, and that was really big for me to see. So there were lots of things for me that there was a lot of assumptions that I lived in, I think, before.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is very easy for us to think we know, and I think mums are quite good at that as well, aren't we? We're so used to kind of herding our children and doing this thing. We can get into this place where we think we know what's best for people, and we think we know what they should have, and we think,
yeah. and aunties. But you know, when I can think now, looking back, you know, what used to come out of my mouth was, well, if I was you,
yeah.
and well, this is the way I would do it, and but from a real place of innocence.
Yeah.
You know, really from a place of innocence, that I really, really just believed that the way I did it was right. And so if you just did it my way, well, you know, then maybe you'd be happy too. So, you know, and I think I really believed that. I really believed that it was what I was doing that was making me happy. So I felt ever so, you know, when I first moved to Spain, I was so happy to be here. And I used to, like, every morning go and watch the sunrise and do all these amazing things. And I thought it was all of those doings that made me happy.
Yeah. It is very easy to get trapped in that, isn't it?
Yeah.
belief in that assumption.
And so it's still a big one, that the sun doesn't make me happy. Because it feels like that. It really, really feels like that. But there's a lot of people that aren't very happy who live in Spain.
Oh, so there's something a little bit suspicious going on there then.
So we really get to see that. So I'm ever so grateful. There's something that I've seen locally, especially up at the where I'm working at the moment, up at the recovery centre, is people talk a lot about gratitude. People are forever doing, if they've come from different understandings, they're always doing gratitude lists, and they're doing gratitude. They're doing love. They're doing, and the difference of really seeing people be in a state of gratitude. So it's just a natural occurrence. Be in a state of love, or fall into that space, or just get a touch of it. Like they've only got to get a tiny, tiny grasp of what we're pointing to for things to really soften.
Because I think it's very easy to kind of see, to look at people who are, in a good space and feel that and kind of see, oh, well, they're happy, they're full of gratitude, they're, and then kind of think that all these things are doings. So if I am very loving, if I'm very giving, if I remember to be grateful for everything, if I do, and then it just becomes something else for us to do. And what I've noticed since I've come across the principles is that all of those things that we're kind of looking towards, because we somehow know they're kind of in the right direction, are natural byproducts. Like you say, you're in gratitude. It's not something, you don't kind of wake up in the morning and think, oh, right, I better think of 10 things to be grateful for. You kind of just have all these things coming into your mind that you think, wow, it's just amazing, isn't it? And you're in it, it's not a doing. And I think that is the difference, as we begin to look in this direction and see all those things that we intuitively know take us in the right direction are a done deal. It's not something we do, they are done.
Yeah, it's just happening, huh?
Yeah.
It's just a happening.
Yeah.
So there's something really gorgeous about just watching it play out. About letting life unfold, all that sort of, there's something really, really nice about, there's a gracefulness that happens especially when things haven't gone the way that maybe I'd planned for them to go. And so something, even in my workspace now, there's something that even people who, and there's a lot of people there, the resistance is still there from certain sort of, colleagues, or they're just not gonna, they're quite happy, especially if they're in recovery themselves, they're quite happy that where they are, and anything else feels like it could rock the boat, right? So it's sort of like staying away from the unknown, a little bit of a fear of the unknown, rather than seeing that the magic is in the unknown. It's pointing to, but so people sort of better the devil they know, right? They're good, and where they are now is a billion times better to where they were maybe 8 years ago or something. So they're just not gonna, and so I get that. Like I get that, because where they are isn't bad now. It's just, and
I think there is an element, I know for me, I mean, some of the places in my life that have got better, I never realised that it could be this good. It never looked to me, like I thought I was good in certain places, and I thought, yeah, that's how it is, and that's good, and I'm good with that. That's really good. And kind of coming across this and seeing, I'm like, wow, I didn't even realise that was possible. So I think sometimes, we think we know if something's kind of okay, then we kind of think, well, yeah, that's how life is. It's good. And I have definitely seen, for me, there are masses of places in my life where I thought, I didn't know life could be this good. I didn't know that was available.
And it's so, I think it goes back to, again, that it seems too simple.
Yeah, very much
true,
so.
Right?
Yeah.
So, working with people, I'm not a big one for labeling, but everybody that, you know, sort of comes through the centre really labels themselves as addicts or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and they always talk about, the thing with addicts is you've got to keep it simple.
Mm.
You've got to keep it simple, or they're lost, they're gone. So, you know, we have so much, I mean, we have so much fun up there, but it's like sometimes like having 9 naughty children. So it's like, and I love naughtiness, right? So I love naughtiness playing out, but it's really nice to guide them to like safe naughty, right? So you can be, you know, you can have that naughtiness that's safe, that's not like life threatening, or, you know, and that's nice. So people come in and they're whatever, but we laugh a lot. We really, really laugh a lot then. I think when people start being able to laugh again, that's a real, for me, that's a sign of recovery. And laugh at themselves and laugh at others, because somewhere it all got a bit too serious for them. Somewhere life got too serious. But, you know, and that's a question I ask them, you know, like, when did it all get so serious?
Yeah. Yeah, life is really, can be such fun, can't it? You know?
Yeah, it can.
Look at us.
Even with big stories, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the gift that I've had of the last kind of 10 months or so, I used to always say, right, nothing will shock me. And then I go, okay, wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't expecting that. But it's okay. And people notice that. So what people have said to me, we've had clients in, and we get all sorts of characters, right? We get all sorts of characters really playing out and acting up and all sorts of whatever. And the others have the way that maybe I have just listened to somebody who's having a rant, you know, if somebody's having a good old rant, the way that I've just let them rant out, or not felt the need to try and fix it, or not felt the need to try and offer advice. Look, that's where some of the other clients have witnessed, like, or they've got really interested, like they're sort of like, I don't think that I could have sat there if I was you and have listened to like this nonsense or whatever it was. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's okay, because, you know, they're just talking out their thinking, right? And it's just their thinking talking out loud. So it's not personal. It's not personal to me. And they're like, yeah, but they were saying this and this about you or about colleague. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't mean it's true. It's true. That's just, and they're like, wow, I don't think that I could have ever done that. And then it's almost like they try and kind of practice it.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, even though we might not be directly sort of standing at the front of the room or talking, or, you know, I don't like that anyway. I like to talk in a circle, so I don't really like being the front of the room. But when we're just around and just being ourselves, like you say, we're just sort of living it, right? We're just living it and sharing it that way. It's sort of like just by example, isn't it? But you don't, you know, you're not trying to do anything. You're just at a place where people get curious that you haven't reacted, and knowing not because they know that you haven't got sort of fear or whatever, because they get to know your character and they see you stand up to people or whatever. So they're not, you know, but it's different. It's just different to what they've seen before. And so, yeah. So sometimes it's just enough to just
get people curious and looking.
Yeah. I say that a lot, you know, I find myself saying that a lot. Just stay curious.
Yeah, I love that, the stay curious. That is definitely one of mine. Get curious, it's brilliant.
I love it. I love the challenges. I love the ones, because I was a real challenger. I was a real challenger, you know. I drove Jack Pransky absolutely bonkers for about 3 years.
Brilliant.
I did. Challenged everything.
But yeah, I think it's good. It's good to challenge, and it's good to question, and not necessarily, because I think, you know, this isn't about taking our word for any of this that we've shared tonight. It's about taking our word. It is very much about looking for yourself. I'm kind of aware of the time that we've run.
I don't know what time it is. Oh my goodness.
So I'm kind of, keeping you. It's so good of you to be here.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure with all of these lovely people. I can only see see the girls, and Tony's gone, and there's Angela.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my life is full of lovely people. I do. So we'll call it a night tonight. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Amanda, your information did go out on the email. But if anybody wants to, if they can't find anything, you can just contact me, and I can put you onto Amanda. If anyone's interested in the retreat, you can ask me, or you can, use the contact to get hold of Amanda.
Absolutely.
And
great.
So if you're listening live to this, I am going to be at Barnstable Library tomorrow evening. If anyone is close enough and wants to pop along there from 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock. If you're listening to the recording, go and check on my website, deborahsimmons.co.uk, and you can see when I'm next going to be we are very close to Christmas, so the timings and things might be changing a little bit, but we're definitely going to be doing regular meetups, so check it out there. It was really, really great to have this conversation tonight. Absolutely brilliant to find out a bit more about you, Amanda. That was cool. And I'm seriously considering the retreat in March. So
I'd love that. I'd love to have you, Deb. It'd be really lovely to co-facilitate with you. I think that would be.
Yeah, well, Jane spoke to me and said she would like me to come out as a facilitator. So I'm kind of trying to see if we can sort something there. That would be absolutely brilliant. So.
Let it happen. Happen.
We'll just allow it to play out. But so thank you very much for everybody who was here tonight, and thank you for anyone who's listening afterwards. And as I say, brilliant to catch up with you, Amanda. So
thanks, all of you. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. Thank you for prancing us up.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love you, everybody, to say goodbye. So if anyone has got anything that they want to chime in with, please do.
I was just going to say that next week our lovely people webinar.
Yeah,
Rudy is speaking.
Yeah, we've got the amazing Rudy next week. Yeah, so if you want to join us, Amanda, to listen to Rudy, he's going to be here next week.
Yeah, I have to. How do I sign up to your lovely people? What are you, a group, or what are you?
The lovely people webinars, you can sign up. I'll put a thing in there, and we have got I've got a Facebook page, deborahsimmons.co.uk. You can find that and like the page and find out more about what we're up to there. Yeah. So
okay, now add me to your list.
I will.
Well, if anybody's coming up to Spain, then make sure that you let me know. And we've got all sorts of meetups and things going on out here. And if anybody's interested in the retreat, it's going to be amazing. Super. So, let me know and bring a friend and come and hang out in a tree house. And, okay, well, lots of love.